Welcome to New York's number 2 sports show. The Yankees lose 2 out of 3 to the St. Louis Cardinals at home. And this has kind of been a consistent theme where there's just been tons of rubber matches in which in this one the Yankees lose. And just the month of August was mediocre at best. I believe the final mark ended up being 14-12, but on paper, a lot of winnable games for the Yankees, a lot of winnable series, and it just didn't happen. Yankees have lost 4 of their last 5 games. They lost their last 2 series. And when you wanted the Yankees to be greedy and get the sweeps, they won 2 out of 3. And when you wanted the Yankees to simply just win 2 out of 3, they lost 2 out of 3. That happened way too many times, right? You think back against the White Sox. That's a series that you got to sweep. You win 2 of 3. I also think about home against the Rockies, and I understand there's a lot of different circumstances. You only win 2 out of 3 in that one. And then as far as series that were lost, I mean, home against and again, I know that there are, circumstances that may be unideal, honestly, in terms of weather, in terms of scheduling, in terms of injuries and pitching and all that. But still, you lose 2 out of 3 home against the Angels, lose 2 out of 3 against the Nationals, lose 2 out of 3 to the Cardinals. These are not great teams. I understand that, look, like for the opposition, it's like, hey, they have games to play on their schedule too. And for a lot of the individuals, like, hey, they have jobs that they're playing for next season and beyond. So, it's not a matter of motivation, but still, it just seems like it's a typical Yankee thing that we've seen in recent seasons. I guess specifically 2022 is what really comes to mind here. So the Yankees record now sits at 79-58, and miraculously, not only do they have still the best record in the division, but also the best record in the league, in the American League, which just shouldn't be. I'm sorry. And look, if you want to say, hey, like the Yankees have a really strong run differential, which they do, fine, but they're 39-39 since June 1st. So 3 months of baseball. It's a large sample size, almost 80 games, 500 baseball. And if you want to even change that and let's say have it be since mid-June, I think at that point they're probably around like 7 under. But I'll be fair and I'll say, hey, let's go back, to the beginning of September. Let's go back to the beginning of June. And yeah, it's not good enough. And winning division it's important. And I know that it's worked out with this format where teams that have come out of the wild card have had some pretty good success. And I think that there is something tangible to that. That all said, though, it's much more advantageous to not only win the division, but to get one of those 2 buys, if you can get it. I mean, look, at least as a fan, you don't have to go through that best of 3 because anything can happen. Look, I understand that, for example, the Yankees have had a lot of success against the Twins in the past and, currently as well. Like, I understand that when you think about potential matchups in that best of 3, like, I don't terribly hate the Yankees' chances, but again, that's all we're talking about. Anything can, as we've seen in a best of 3 series, like anything can happen. So the Yankees, you want to avoid that, and I don't know that they will. They're a half game ahead of the Baltimore Orioles, which is the main team to focus on more than anything. That is the main team, and the Yankees are 1 game ahead on the loss side. And keep in mind, they still have that 3-game series at Yankee Stadium the last week of the season, which I think we've all kind of circled on the calendars is like, that's what it's going to come down to at the end of the day. As far as the rest of the American League, the Yankees are ahead of the Cleveland Guardians by 1 game. And I think that's important too, for the sake of avoiding the Houston Astros. That's where we are. As much as it would be great for the Yankees to break the spell and to conquer, I guess, the demons, if you will, that the Houston Astros provide. But that all said, if I'm being honest with myself, that is the toughest team in this league. It is. Not only because of the pedigree, but really what they're showing now. They're a very hot team that's getting healthier and has a well-rounded squad. And so I look at them and you want to avoid them. And so your best chance of doing that, as I see it, and even they are like only 4 games back of the Yankees at the moment, is to finish in that first spot and to not drop behind, let's just say, the Guardians So, look, with a month to go, with what is it now? I think 27 games left. Does that make sense? 79 and 58. Um, would that be correct? No, I think it's less than that. It's probably around 25, no? I want to get that right. Let's just see. And it's the schedule actually gets a little bit tougher, which is kind of the ironic thing, but maybe that ends up being good. See, I'm not so sure. Yeah, 25 games. Just 25 games remaining. So, you're at Texas, who they're not going to make the playoffs this year, but I still look at that roster and it's still somewhat imposing. You're at the Cubs, who they are playing scorching hot baseball right now. They are trying to make a last second late entry into the National League playoffs. Like, it's not that far fetched. I think that they might be 3 games out of the final wild card spot, so they're there. Then you're home against Kansas City, who, as we know, they're right in the thick of the American League playoff hunt. Then 4 against the Red Sox, which throw away the record books when those two teams are playing, but not for nothing. Boston, they are still clinging on to, they're about 4.5 games out of the race, which is, A, close enough, and B, we know the Red Sox have given the Yankees problems. Then you have a West Coast swing at Seattle and at Oakland. And that's one of those things, again, those West Coast games aren't easy. And then you finish it off home against Baltimore, home against Pittsburgh. So I don't think that the September schedule is really all that easy. But again, maybe that's best for the Yankees, because August was, you looked at it, it's like, all right, this is going to be series win after series win after series win. Just simply did not happen. To get now into the transactions, because that's a big thing, right? You go to September 1st, rosters expand by 2 spots, 1 extra hitter, 1 extra pitcher. And so some surprises, some things that were expected, but what ends up happening is Will Warren and Ben Rice are sent down. So Will Warren, we'll talk about him. Not a great outing. I hope to not see him really for the rest of the season. But Warren, not a great outing in game 2 versus the Cardinals. And so he's sent down as well as Ben Rice. So that gives you 4 open spots. And I don't believe that there had been any, I want to confirm this right now. I don't believe that there had been any transactions made previous to that. Let's just see to make sure. Yeah, nothing. One thing I wanted to say that I didn't mention in the last episode was that Michael Tonkin was claimed by the Minnesota Twins, and he's been with the Twins actually as recently as this season and in the past. I think he's had multiple stints with the Twins. He actually might have come up with the Minnesota Twins, but yeah, Tonkin ends up, which is not surprising that he lands there. It's been a rough go for him, but just wanted to mention that. But the 4 moves that the Yankees make, Anthony Rizzo is back, and that it was expected. Rizzo actually, makes the start in the 3rd game and actually gets a couple of hits. Looks good at first base. So, hey, for me, it's tempered excitement for Rizzo, but so far, so good. I thought he actually looked all right. If 1 game means something, it was not too bad. Then let's talk about some pitchers. And these weren't surprises either. Ron Marinaccio, who was deserving only for the fact that his number is really in the majors and the minors pretty damn good this year. And he's had, and we've seen him have success at the major league level before. And then Scott Effross, the long-awaited return of Scott Effross, who has been coming around lately. He also gets the nod. Now, interestingly enough, Effross and Marinaccio both have their struggles in that 3rd and final game against the Cardinals. But then the 4th move, and I kind of feel bad for him, as it ends up being a joke. Everyone wanted, myself included, for it to be Jason Dominguez. And in fact, I did kind of think that it would be. I did. Because, in a way, you knew that it wasn't going to be, there wasn't really many other options as we knew it. But it actually ends up being outfielder Duke Ellis, who is a pinch running specialist. He steals bases. And look, to be fair for a moment, that actually is a need. That actually is. When you think about the Yankees, the pinch running situation, they didn't have any. Really, your most ideal situation for a pinch runner would really be Oswaldo Cabrera. And look, as much as he's not a slow player, Oswaldo, he isn't particularly speedy either. So it is useful. So I don't want to this is nothing against Duke Ellis, but it ends up kind of being a joke because no one really knew who he was. I think I might have heard his name for the first time a few days ago because I guess the Yankees had, I forget the move that got him here. I think they might have claimed him off waivers from the Mariners, and that's what happened. And so Dominguez is still not with the club, and so the fans are very upset by that, and I don't disagree with that. Here's what I think it simply comes down to, and then we'll get into the Cardinal series. And please like and subscribe. I think it simply comes down to this. They don't want to pull the plug on Alex Verdugo. They don't. And I wish they would. My feelings on him are, I think that it's been a really bad season. And if they were to have, let's say, if they were to go to Verdugo and say, hey, you're now going to be primarily on the bench, that would be completely understandable. Right? I don't think at this point has anything to do with any sort of roster in terms of any service time manipulation. I think it has nothing to do with that. I simply think it's a matter of they are not ready to have that conversation with Verdugo saying, hey, you're going to be on the bench, or hey, you're just not going to be playing as much. And so, look, to be fair to Verdugo, he's been okay lately. Like, has not been amazing, but it's been better, and there is a track record there. So, I don't know. I mostly am probably more on the anti-Verdugo side, but I'm not all the way completely 100% there. He's frustrating, to be certain. I don't have that much faith that it's going to get all that much better, but here's the thing. It's not as if, they didn't call up Dominguez on September 1st, so now they can't do it at all. They probably still will. Chances are, whether it be via injury or just, even like the AAA season coming to him, whatever it might be, Dominguez is probably going to come up at some point. That much I think I can say. And look, like, there's still a lot of, to me, the position players, it gets interesting as far as the roster spots. And obviously, look, a guy like Duke Ellis isn't someone that they need to keep on the roster. Like, if it's a bit of a logjam, for example, like John Birdie, he could be your pinch runner and fill more needs. But let's just say Birdie goes on the roster. Okay, fine. So let's just say it's Birdie for Duke Ellis. Let's just say. But then that's why the Dominguez thing gets interesting. If it's then also Dominguez, who is the one that goes? And it really probably comes down to three players. Because I really do think that John Birdie, I actually think that he will have a spot. That's my feel. And so it probably comes down to three players. And it would be Oswaldo Cabrera, Trent Grisham, and DJ LeMahieu. And I don't want it to be Oswaldo. I don't. And I don't think it deserves to be. But would it shock me if, because he probably has options and they have the ability to do it without losing him, it just doesn't feel right. I think that they wouldn't want to do it either. But they're going to be faced with that tough decision. And then with the pitching side of things, it sounds as if Luis Gil and Clark Schmidt will both be back starting, or at least back, for that Cubs series in about less than a week's time. So with that, it's like, okay, in terms of the roster spots, that I could see is doable. Because you still have like Phil Bickford on the roster. Even Tim Meza. And look, Tim Meza has actually been decent. I'm not like dying to get rid of him by any means, but I'm just saying. And then even like, look, Scott Efros and Ron Marinaccio, both of them are also subject to, like, they need to pitch well to stay up here. The point I'm trying to make is with the pitching, as much as there's a lot of pitchers kind of on the mend and coming back, there's also a lot that are on the roster that could go too. So that'll be interesting. But the main point there is the rotation, because I don't think that they're going to want to go with a 6-man rotation. And so then that leads you to a situation where maybe they can kind of make it work for a while, but someone's going to have to get bumped out. And I think the only ones that I can say that are truly safe, truly safe, is Cole and Rodon. Now, not because I think that Rodon, look, in my opinion, Rodon should, that's just me. I think Rodon, there should be some discussion in terms of the postseason rotation, but I understand, like, his upside's high, whatever. So let's just take that aside. But when it comes to Cortez, Stroman, Heel, and Schmidt, like, those are the ones that are going to be at risk of losing that rotation spot. We'll see that when it comes. Anyway, the Cardinals series. Game 1 starts out well. And look, a lot of splits in the first 2 games. Let's just think back real quick. The Cardinals series, a split in the first 2 games. The National series, split the first 2. Rockies series, split the first 2. The Guardians, same thing. So that's 4 in a row right there off the top of my head. Then the Tigers, that's 5. Then the White Sox, that's 6. That's insane. The whole month basically was. The Blue Jays, the Angels. Wow. So this goes back, I think the last time where it didn't I might have skipped this year. Oh, Texas too was a split. That's insane. And if I may have skipped one, but you get the point. Like, that's like the whole month. I think the last time there wasn't was that Philly sweep. And that goes back to the thing where when Jazz Chisholm was acquired, and that was one thing that we can all agree was very positive and seems to be a really good move. That was where you had a little bit of a spike in vibes and energy and winning. Was that the Red Sox was kind of that end of the Red Sox series going to the Philly series, but then it kind of just went away. It just went away. So, yeah, it's just been a lot of mediocre baseball, 500 baseball. And that might prove very costly to this Yankee team. You might look back where this was a time where, hey, like, you were relatively healthy. Don't use injuries as an excuse. This is a relatively healthy squad, all things considered. All teams deal with injuries. So, yeah, like, just not getting it done at all against opponents that were ripe to be beaten. So anyway, Cards Yanks game 1, and look, the Cards don't come to town all that often, so it's a very old school matchup. Cardinals, a long-standing franchise, and their chances of making the postseason are extremely slim, very, very slim. I wouldn't think it's going to happen. They would need to go on a tear, but they did. The bats got going this series, especially in game 3. I'll tell you that much. But Marcus Stroman has been a bright spot lately. So where really he hit a major low about a month ago, and credit to him, I want to say his last 4 or so starts, might be a little bit more than that. It's been pretty good. And with Stroman, this was kind of a vintage Stroman line. Like when he's going right. 7 innings, 9 hits. So like a lot of hits, a lot of singles, a lot of like soft or contact stuff. 2 runs, no walks, 5 strikeouts. So it gives you innings in this case. Does allow a lot of base runners, as he's always done, but he limits the damage. And so, look, like, I was ready to kind of totally ride him off. And I still don't think, if everyone's healthy, I am suspicious. I don't, could he maybe crack that 4th starter spot? It's possible. I'll give him that. But I still think that, I don't know. The problem, I don't think he'd have really a great role in that pen. I think what Stroman has ensured, at least in my opinion, is that he will have a postseason roster spot. Like, whereas if it had gotten really bad, I think he just maybe wouldn't have made it. Like i.e., like DJ LeMahieu, where it's just like completely useless. But Stroman, like, has been in what has been kind of a struggling time for the club. He's been pretty good. So he wins, improves to 10-8. ERA drops to 3.81. And then for the Cardinals, it was Eric Fetty, who pitched all right, but Austin Wells was the story. Stroman and Wells were the story of game 1. Like, it was the Wells show, and Wells hits a couple of homers. So Fetty goes 5 1/3, 4 hits, 4 runs, 1 walk, 8 strikeouts. So as far as the lineup, it's been fairly stable, with Gleyber leading off. Wells plays all 3 games. It was against 3 righties as well, which that's also kind of unfortunate because we know the Yankees are better versus right-handed starters and only are able to win 1 of 3. So Wells batting cleanup, Stan batting 5th, Chisholm 6th. Again, like, a lot of stability with the lineup. Verdugo, you find him batting 8th or 9th. Now that Rizzo's back in, Volpe will be 8th or 9th. So yeah, like, it's a pretty deep lineup. Not to say that they couldn't be shut down in the playoffs, but I will say on paper, not too bad, especially if Gleyber can have consistency at the 1 spot and you can just get that middle of the order representing a threat behind Judge. That's huge. Now, let me just go through each player real quick. Gleyber, and it's always game 2 because I have the game 1 box score in front of me, And then, of course, game 3 is the most recent, so it's easy to remember. So game 2 is always the one that's a little bit tough. But Glaber, what I'd say for him is, like, he's just been pretty consistent. So, again, for me, the thoughts, right, just forgetting about the stats, the thoughts that I have with Glaber, pretty positive at the moment. Juan Soto really hasn't actually been that great. And we'll talk about him from a defensive standpoint. Yeah, I mean, the right field issues are glaring. And the problem is nothing's going to happen about it. See, if the Yankees were being honest with themselves, and I understand there's a lot in play, you don't want to upset Juan Soto. And, like, you actually don't. Like, as much as you're trying to win games, you don't want to upset Juan Soto with the situation being what it is with his contract. That situation looming. Because really, and I'm not the biggest Trent Grisham fan at all. I'm not. And I feel like the way he plays, there's a lackadaisical sort of nature to it. But I will admit, the guy is a pretty good center fielder. And probably more than pretty good. So it's unfortunate that really your better defensive alignment does have Grisham in center and Judge and right, not Soto. And Soto, that defense is really, really rearing its ugly head. On the offensive side, it's been a little bit, and again, for his expectations, keep that in mind, right? Because Soto has been really good, just in general. With Soto, it was a good game 1. What you got to like about Soto is, like, you trust him in those late game situations. That's the best thing. He is, like, the epitome to me of just pure clutch. So Soto, he hasn't really been, totally killing it, like, offensively as maybe he was, but there's no concern there. Aaron Judge had a really tough series, and, where it was looking, and that's how these things change quickly. After that Rocky series, looking like, okay, like I said it, and I'll still stick with it. I will. That Judge would break his own record, because we know when he gets hot, it's a wrap. But he ends up going 1 for 12 with 7 strikeouts in this Cardinal series after coming off a National series that was okay, not great. So this is me more just making I'm not like criticizing him, just more speaking the facts of what was done. Yeah. When Judge doesn't have a great series, that doesn't bode well. However, the Yankees offensively really did the job the whole way through. Austin Wells with just an amazing game 1 and followed up with a good game 2. Not so much in game 3, but 2 homers for Austin Wells. Stanton, good stuff from him after a National series that wasn't so good for him. Really follows it up with a very nice series against the Cards, including a pinch hit bases clearing double, which we'll talk about in game 2. Jazz Chisholm Jr., he has a nice series offensively. After not doing much in game 1, he follows it up with a good games 2 and 3. Anthony Volpe, again with him, it's been worse. Like, it's been worse for Volpe. I don't have a major problem as it happens right now. Some at bats get frustrating, but I think he's been okay. Ben Rice gets sent down, so that's unfortunate, but that was inevitable. And then Alex Verdugo, really bad game 1. It's interesting. Like, games 1 and 2 not good, but then game 3 was actually good. So really, the first day that you thought Dominguez might get called up, Verdugo comes into action. Verdugo then kind of maybe steps up a bit and actually had a pretty good game offensively, game 3. So let's go. Let's talk game 1. Yankees get on the board first, and really just a nice way of sort of manufacturing run. And that's been kind of the positive with Jazz Chisholm. I notice a lot when there's a runner on second and no outs. A lot of the times he grounds out to second. That's exactly what happens here. A Stanton double, Jazz grounds out, moves Stanton over to third, and then Volpe, opposite field sac fly. That was a very nice way to score a run. But what I haven't discussed yet, and I guess it's coming to mind now, even though it may not be relevant to this moment, just the Yankees defense just is not very good. Like, any way you want to look at it. And again, I'm not going to speak to anything so specific, just because, again, like there is no errors that are popping up here, but something is triggering me to bring it up. So something must have happened. Oh, here's what it was. Jazz Chisholm, it was a tough play, but in foul territory near the screen, he couldn't come up with it. Again, it wasn't easy, but it could have ended the inning. What ends up happening, it's a 2-out rally where you get a Brendan Donovan RBI single. He killed the Yankees this series. And then an RBI single for Paul Goldschmidt. He killed the Yankees this series. Like, the Cardinals guys, certain guys that hadn't been great this season, looked really good in this 3-game set. So a 2-1 Cardinals lead at that point, but the Yankees come right back. Good response. A RBI double by Juan Soto makes it 2-2. And then with 2 out, Austin Wells homers, makes it 4-2. It's his 11th homer of the year. So they needed that. And then Stroman settles in. It wasn't without allowing some base runners, but he's able to keep runs off the board. And then he goes 7 innings, which was really nice, because you don't see that too often. Then Jake Cousins comes in the 8th, Cousins came into the series pitching really well, leaves the series not as well. Some bad luck maybe in game 3, but he does allow a 2-out homer to Nolan Arenado in the 8th inning to make it 4-3. Tommy Kahnle comes on and finishes that bottom of the 8th. And keep in mind, too, I thought a little interesting note that DJ LeMahieu did not come in as a defensive replacement for Ben Rice. And maybe that's because they knew Rizzo was coming up soon, so LeMahieu won't be really seeing that role anymore, but I thought it was a little bit notable. And then in the 8th inning, a couple of big insurance runs off of Riley O'Brien, the reliever for the Cardinals. It would be a 2-out, 2-run homer for Austin Wells. So a big night for Wells. His 12th homer of the year, 2 homers, 4 RBIs. And at that point, he left that game with a close to 800 OPS. Now, it didn't end up getting there. I don't think it ever reached above it. But yeah, like knocking on that door, and he's just been really, really good and really becoming, I don't want to, a fan favorite's a little bit strong, but yeah, like there was Austin Wells chance in the building. So that was cool. And then Clay Holmes comes on, and look, Clay in 3-run games is just different and more effective. And not that he was dominant, but he gets the job done. Picks up the save, his 29th save of the season. Yankees win 6-3, but then it goes downhill from there. Yankees game 2. So this games 2 and 3 are both situations where the Yankees take initial leads, then the starter kind of blows up a bit. Yankees offense kind of goes for the valiant comeback. They fall a little bit short in game 2. They actually tied up in game 3, then the bullpen just, lets it all go in game 3. But it was a somewhat similar script in both games. Let's discuss it. Will Warren just not good. 4 innings, 5 hits, 4 runs, 3 walks, 2 strikeouts. That's what's unfortunate is that you would have had Luis Gil or Clark Schmidt and Warren taking those spots, and you're getting losses in his starts pretty regularly. So that wasn't good. On the flip side for the Cardinals, Kyle Gibson, and I'm not that surprised, who came in with not great numbers, but he's had success against the Yankees in the past. He wins to improve to 8-6. 7 innings, 5 hits, 1 earned run, no walks, and 6 strikeouts for Kyle Gibson. Again, fairly unacceptable, somewhat similar, but not as bad as the Patrick Corbin situation from earlier in the week. Like, offense just can't get shut down like that. So this was a game where Trent Grisham starts in center field. Aaron Judge is in the DH spot. Giancarlo Stanton comes off the bench in this one. And what was also kind of interesting, Oswaldo Cabrera starts at first base, which I like to see that. Unfortunately, though, with Rizzo back, is it going to be that relevant? But we'll see. The interesting thing with this whole situation, like DJ LeMahieu, like his playing time is going to be really, really diminished. The only thing I can think of is, like, for example, the Yankees face Andrew Heaney in one of the games against Texas. Figure that they maybe give Rizzo a blow and LeMahieu gets that start there. But I don't know that. Rizzo, he's going to start against lefties at times too. So anyway, Yanks take the lead in the bottom of the second, kind of similar to the night before, where Wells doubles. Chisholm gets a ground out to move Wells over to third, and then Volpe gets the run in, this time with an RBI single. So kind of really similar. Makes it 1-0 Yanks. Then in the third, things just kind of go to shit and snowball. Volpe messes up on a potential double play ball. After with his runner on first and no out, it doesn't go down as an error because you can't assume the double play, but Volpe bobbles what should have been an easy double play. It makes the inning tougher, and ultimately you get an RBI single by Nolan Arenado, makes it 1-1, and then Brendan Donovan hits his 11th homer of the year, a 3-run shot. That was the big blow of the game. Was it the Yankee Stadium homer? Yes, but they all count the same. Gives the Cardinals a 4-1 lead there. Not great for Will Warren. Then, let's see. Let's just jump to the 5th. Tim Hill pitches a 1-2-3 5th inning. Some failed Yankee opportunities, I'll say. I'm not going to go into specifics, but some failed opportunities in the 4th and 5th inning. Then Mark Leiter Jr. comes on, and it's just been bad. It's just been really bad. And, his spot, like, for as far as postseason roster, it's very much in question. Whereas when he came here, that was really a sure lock. No, it's not right now. 1-out double for Nootbaar, and then an RBI double for Herrera. Makes it 5-1. And then not a great moment for Austin Wells where the ball gets by him. It's a wild pitch to Leiter, but then Wells tries to get the run around at third, throws it away, and Herrera comes around to score. That run would technically really kind of be the winning run, as it turns out. That makes it 6-1. To Leiter's credit, he would throw a scoreless 1-2-3 7th. And then let's go to the top of the 8th. Tim Mayza with a 1-2-3 inning. And Tim Mayza doing a nice little job for the Yanks. lately. And then Matthew Liberatore, the lefty, comes on in the eighth, and the Yankees build the comeback a little bit. But it's interesting. It starts with a Gleyber single, but then Soto double play, wipes that whole thing out. But then they get back going. Judge single, Wells single, Chisholm single, leads to then an Anthony Volpe bases loaded infield RBI single, makes it 6-2, setting the stage for Giancarlo Stanton to pinch it for Grisham. They bring on the righty Andrew Kittredge, and Stanton gets into one that ends up being a bases clearing RBI three-run double, but it was just shy of a grand slam. It was like inches short. Stanton and the crowd would have went crazy. And I kind of knew in that moment, I'm thinking, yeah, like, not great. Like, that could be the difference. And it kind of was. Verdugo then grounds out the second, and that's not great there. And that's what he does a lot. We go to the ninth. Luke Weaver comes on. Quick 1-2-3 inning, bottom of the ninth against Ryan Helsley. And closer for the Cardinals. He has a shit ton of saves, like 42, which is pretty nuts. Oswaldo Cabrera strikes out on an automatic strike violation. And that's tough considering where you are in the game. By the letter of the law, yeah, Oswaldo messed up. He wasn't ready. Like, that was the right call. But to enforce it there kind of stings a bit. Then Gleyber Torres flies out. Then Soto, who was hitless on the day. You can always count on Soto, I feel, to like prolong the game. And what does he do? He doubles. Then they intentionally walk Judge to get to Austin Wells. It was a decent at-bat, ultimately, though, leading to a final result of Wells striking out on what was ball four. Nice pitch by Ryan Helsley. So a tough loss, a comeback that falls short. And the Cardinals tie up the series at 1. So let's go to the rubber match. And this one was pretty fucking ugly, honestly. Just a much sloppier, even though there was a little bit of sloppiness, like I said, in that game too. Game 3, it was kind of just an unsightly loss to the Yanks. And so it was Nestor Cortez. And this was a game where there was a bit of a sudden sort of monsoon that hit Nestor. And it kind of reminded me a little bit of that Angels, like, Nestor seems to have bad luck with the rain, because I think that also happened in the Angels series a few weeks back. But Nestor, like, it's a valid excuse. Like, part of me wants to let Nestor off the hook, but also, like, hey, he was getting hit hard, didn't really have strikeout stuff. It was not a great start for Nestor Cortez. 4 innings, 9 hits, 5 runs, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts. And the Cardinals end this game with 14 runs and 21 hits. So season highs on both accounts for the Cardinals. Again, a team that really is not all that great offensively. So Nestor actually doesn't get the loss, which is it's one of those rare situations for Nestor where he was being saddled with losses and bad win-loss luck when he'd been pitching well. Here he doesn't pitch well and ends up with a no decision. For the Cardinals, the starter was Miles Michaelis, and he didn't really pitch all that well either. Only goes 4 innings, 7 hits, 5 runs, 3 of those earned, no walks, and 5 strikeouts. So for the Yankees, and again, a pretty eventful game, so let's just jump right in. Second inning is where it just begins with the sloppiness. Brendan Donovan with a double on a play that Juan Soto he doesn't track it right off the bat. I don't know what he thought. I think he must have thought it was a high sky pop, but it travels, and it was a catchable ball. And then it leads to Jordan Walker getting an RBI single. So that makes it 1-0 Cardinals. It could have gotten worse, but Nestor kind of gets out of any further damage. Then the bottom of the second, Giancarlo Stanton with just a missile of a homer, his 24th homer of the season. And again, I look at Stanton's stats, and it's 800 OPS flat. And for the current iteration of Giancarlo Stanton, I'll take that. He is capable of more. He is. There's still a lot of damage in that bat. But ultimately, like, he did miss some time, but based on what you thought could have been going into the season, it's been I would say, it hasn't been spectacular, but a good season for Stanton. But it's also contingent on him staying healthy. Then you get a Jazz Chisholm Graham roll double. Kind of lucky. Like, that was kind of a bad play by Jordan Walker. And then Chisholm just makes the run happen himself. Not many guys can do this. The only guys that are really threats on the bases for the Yankees are Jazz and Volpe. And I would even say Jazz more so than Volpe. I don't know. Maybe because he's the new guy, it's just fun to watch, but he steals third. And Michaelis didn't see it. He then kind of tried to quickly get him out, throwing to Aaron out of third, but then I think it goes off of Chisholm and away from him, and Chisholm actually scores. So where he's at second base, just in a blink of an eye, Chisholm makes it happen with that steal of third, and the throwing error by Michaelis gives the Yankees a 2-1 lead. Then at the top of the fourth is when the rain starts to come, and it's not great. Donovan single, Walker single, but then, hey, a couple of strikeouts. And then Mason Wynn with a 2-run double down. Like, it's a play where it's not really Verdugo's fault. They have him positioned way off the line. Why? I'm not too sure. But Verdugo, he probably could have maybe laid out for it, or if he had handled the ball being hitting the ground better, maybe only 1 run scores. So again, like, I think some blame goes to him. It ends up being a 2-run double for Mason Wynn, gives the Cardinals a 3-2 lead, and then a damaging 2-run homer for Luken Baker. His second homer of the season makes it 5-2. So that's where Nestor needed to stop the bleeding and couldn't do so. We go to the top of the fifth. Scott Effross makes his return, and he hadn't pitched in the big leagues in a little less than 2 years. And unfortunately for him, it ends up not so good as Jordan Walker hits his first homer of the season in what would be a 5-hit game for Jordan Walker. Makes it 7-2. Tim Mesa finishes out the inning. We go to the bottom of the fifth. Yankees get some things going. A Chisholm Jr. single, then Rizzo with an opposite field RBI double. Good to see that. You know, again, Rizzo, someone who had not looked very good before he got hurt, but, you know, a pretty decent day coming back. Then Volpe reaches on an error, just a mess. I'm not going to get into it, but just a mess all the way around. Alex Verdugo RBI single makes it 7-4. Gleyber Torres RBI single makes it 7-5. Then the lefty John King comes on, and what sucks is Soto hits it hard, but it's a double play. So right there, you're thinking, okay, the Yankees might make something really big happen. It doesn't happen. They intentionally walk Judge, and that pays off again as Austin Wells grounds out. And what I will concede is that Austin Wells is not that good versus lefties. I still want to let him play against lefties, but I do kind of understand. When Trevino starts, ideally it would be against lefties, and you kind of throw day game after night game out the window, as we've seen. Like Wells, he played day game after night game, and they're going to do that if there's going to be 2 righties on the mound. I agree with that way of going about it. Jake Cousins finishes off the sixth after Tim Mays got a couple of outs. Then the bottom of the sixth, the Yankees tie it up. Stanton walk, Chisholm ground out, forces Stanton out at second. He then steals second. Rizzo with a single moves Jazz over to third. They bring on the righty Riley O'Brien, and Anthony Volpe gets an RBI single. Kind of a lucky one there, where and that's where I should have mentioned earlier, where Volpe, in that bad inning by Cortez, Volpe ends up not being able to field a play that really should have been a double play. It's only partially Volpe's fault, really more so like the ground conditions weren't great. The weather was really bad at that point. So a little bit unlucky, but hey, you got to still make the best of the situation. But Volpe here on the other end of the spectrum, Mason Wynn was the one that kind of fucked up. It goes down as a single, makes it 7-6. Verdugo singles, makes it bases loaded, then Gleyber with a sac fly on. Actually, a nice catch by the center fielder, Victor Scott. Ties it up at 7. They bring on Jojo Romero, and Soto hits it to the warning track. So Yankees really had a chance to kind of not blow it open, but at least take the lead. That doesn't happen. Then the 7th inning, with Jake Cousins still on, a walk, then a 1-out single. Kind of bad luck where it goes off of Cousins. Really should have been a double play. They get no one out. Canley comes on, gets the first out. Then Jordan Walker singles, makes the base loaded 2 out. And the big really hit of the game was a 3-run double by Lars Nootbaar on a play where Juan Soto potentially could have had it. He could have. I mean, like, I think Judge would have. Not everyone would have had that, but doesn't get the greatest jump on it. And look, it was hit hard. Tommy Canley did not pitch well here. Like, this is a situation where Jake Cousins, who had been good, and Tommy Canley, who had been good, they weren't. So I'm not going to kill him, but you know, that's just what it was. Makes it 10-7. Then an RBI double by Victor Scott. This was another play that Soto went back on. This was a little bit of a tougher play. It was hit hard. Then Phil Bickford comes on, replaces Canley, and it's a bunt single by Wynn, and it's thrown away by Bickford, allowing the run to score. So things are getting ugly at this point. Makes it 12-7. Let's go to let's see. Bickford finishes off the 8th. Let's go to the 9th. Ron Marinaccio comes on and unfortunately allows a single and then a 2-run homer to Lars Nootbaar. So Nootbaar with a pretty, again, a lot of impressive stat lines for these Cardinals in game 3. And that makes it 14-7, and that's your final score. So Yankees lose the series, a winnable series, and now they go to Texas, a team that they played very recently. This Texas Ranger team is not going to make the playoffs. I can say that, it's not official, obviously, but they're not going to make it. But the 3 pitching matchups. Game 1 is the one that is the most lopsided. It's Garrett Cole. They have it listed now as TBD for Texas. Yes, that was making it seem like it'd be Jack Leiter, which would be an interesting storyline. The son of Mark Leiter, and then therefore the cousin of Mark Leiter Jr. young pitcher with a lot of promise. I think in his few outings, he hasn't been very good in the majors. If that is the matchup, or if it's something close to that, that's you kind of got to win that one. After Cole lost the Cole Corbin matchup, and with the Yankees kind of scuffling, it is imperative that Garrett Cole, who pitched well against Texas last time, gets the job done. Then game 2, and these are in both former Yankees that the Yankees are facing 2 and 3, and pitchers that they faced in that Yankee Stadium series a few weeks ago. It's Carlos Rodon against Andrew Heaney, so a battle of lefties there. And I'm trying to think, did Rodon pitch? In that series against Texas, I don't believe he did. I don't think he did. I know Cole pitched. Oh, wait, let me think about it. No, he did. He actually did. He pitched well. That was where he pitched. It was the doubleheader. Rodon actually pitched pretty well in that one. So hopefully that helps against Andrew Heaney. And then game 3 will be Marcus Stroman, who also pitched that series and was pretty effective against Nate Eovaldi, who the Yankees got to. So again, yeah, very extremely similar. I think you're looking at except the Jack Leiter spot, 5 of the 6 were part of that. So familiar for both sides. Texas is 65 and 72, but don't look at that record for many reasons. Yankees aren't good against under 500 teams, or not as good as they should be. And Texas, on paper, to me, pitching and hitting, is still, you cannot take them lightly. Yankees got to go in here with September beginning. September, the first game of September wasn't good. They got to turn it around. I mean, look, the Orioles are home against the White Sox. And I know the Orioles, they have been not playing well themselves. But that's as easy as it gets. It just is. And so the Yankees, it's on them. They gotta win games. They want to win this division. They got to stop fucking around. So Yankees lose the series to the Cardinals, and you got 25 games to go. Yankees 79 and 58, half a game ahead of the Orioles, 1 game on the loss side. They really got to kick it into high gear.